Gadi, it's a great pleasure to have you here on the Rubicon show. This talk is going to be about the two-state solution in opposition to the Trump plan that kind of comes from my idea. You have a vast knowledge about the two-state solution, and you have been arguing for it for a long time. So please, Gadi, tell us a bit about who you are, and then go on, please, to the goods and bads of the two-state solution, please.
Sure. Thank you very much, Asger, for having me here with you. It's a pleasure. Times are difficult and challenging, but I guess when it's dark, then you need the light or the flashlight more than ever. So this is what we're trying to do. I'm a former Israeli government official working both at the Foreign Ministry and the Prime Minister's office, participated in numerous rounds of negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians. And then about 20 years ago, when we felt that we were really close to an agreement, to a two-state solution agreement, the gaps were still there, but were not that wide. We tried and explored the possibility of having a detailed agreement to see. Sometimes devil is in the details. We want to know if God is in the details, maybe, and to try and check with our Palestinian partners if it's really possible. So in a non-official way, we reached a model after long negotiations, which covers solutions for all pending issues between Israel and the Palestinians. It's a 40 pages booklet, the Geneva Accord, okay? And then, which includes basically agreed answers to the core issues: borders, Jerusalem, refugees, security, mutual recognition. Over the years, we even developed annexes to this core agreement on issues like water, environment, economy, very detailed arrangement. So we have also a 400 pages book.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's right. I recommend reading it before going to sleep. It will give you good dreams. So this book and this booklet of the Geneva Initiative actually served very much the negotiators when they negotiated, but unfortunately it happened only twice in the last 20 years, 2007, 2020, in 2013. So for the last 12 years, there were no negotiations, formal official negotiations at all. But if they will be resumed, I'm sure they will use again this stuff, not because it's an invention of the will, but because it shows realistically what is the zone of possible agreement between the two parties. And basically, the envelope is the two-state solution.
Could you tell us a bit about how do you envision the kind of the political structure of a Palestinian state? How about, law, military, police, stuff like that, kind of the core of the state? How would that look?
So, I'm Israeli and I'm not telling others what kind of state they should run, but we reached some kind of agreed parameters. For example, in terms of security, we speak about a non-militarized Palestine. So it will be a country without army. There are a few countries like that around the world, with a strong police force that will, make sure that there is law and order, and with some international presence that will protect the Palestinian state against potential threats from outside. But Israel will enjoy very detailed security arrangements, including the possibility of flying over the state and some intelligence and so on. And all the arrangements will be implemented gradually, step by step. According to our Palestinian colleagues, they are all talking about a democratic state with parliament. This is the model that they want to follow. They speak about separation between religion and state. They speak about, of course, a full member of the international community, and of having good, close relations with its neighbors, mainly with Israel, because they are so interdependent of, in terms of economy, labor, trade, that it will not be a complete divorce. It won't be a marriage, because we'll have a border, but it won't be a complete divorce. It will be a cooperation between two countries with their own interests.
Could you tell us a bit about, you said it's a gradual implementation. I think most Israelis are really, concerned about the whole security issue, right? To be honest. How do you see this gradual implementation of a police force and a regional force that kind of takes over the more overall security?
So first of all, I'm Israeli. I have kids here, so I'm very much concerned about our personal security and about our national security. Of course, we had unfortunately a lot of experience, including the barbaric attack on October 7th, and on our citizens, on our people within Israel, and we need to make sure that this agreement will provide security, more security, not less. The situation where we don't have borders, when we don't have political agreements, is dangerous, I think, for both peoples, but as an Israeli, I would say it's dangerous for Israelis. And what we are witnessing almost on a daily basis as part of this conflict is more casualties, more dead, more injured, more bloodshed, while in the cases where we reached political agreements, like with Egypt and Jordan, after several wars, we have secure permanent borders, and then we have no more wars. So it will not happen in one day, this transformation. That's why we're talking about gradual. So what we foresee is a gradual withdrawal from the West Bank in steps. You withdraw from a certain area, then the Palestinian police gets in, and we see if they are able and capable of establishing law and order and to make sure that the terrorists will not come out of this area and attack Israelis. If it works, we move to the second stage and so on and so forth. And we test it during the process. Israel is strong enough, has enough support to stop such a process if it doesn't work. But in my view, without entering such a process, and even I would say without taking those risks, we are taking a much bigger risk. So the current situation is much more dangerous.
Yeah, we have all this talk about, starting the war again, right, within a week, right? So that's kind of the greatest danger. Okay, could you maybe tell us a little about the checks and balances of the whole security issue? I know that Israel is strong enough, but have you thought about, specifically how are we going to make sure that this whole process doesn't, run out of hand and all of a sudden we have security problems?
It's a very legitimate question, Asger. I can only tell you I don't have 100% guarantees. I'm not a prophet. We're just thinking what's reasonable and what are the calculated risks that you can take, taking into consideration that not taking risks sometimes is more dangerous. So the security implementation will be based, first of all, on a strong Israeli army. We're not weakening our army. And our neighbors know it, and they felt it and they feel it, and they may feel it in the future if things don't go towards a political solution. But I'm saying that security is not only number of aircrafts or tanks or arms. It's a much wider, comprehensive term. And in order to have real security, you cannot have it without a political understanding that serves the interests of both sides. If one side will feel that our interests are not being met and he needs to change the situation there, then we will be again in a delicate, sensitive, and maybe even dangerous situation. So the challenge here is to get to a win-win situation between Israelis and Palestinians, knowing that there are some extremists on both sides that will not agree to a win-win. They want to completely defeat the other side and make them even disappear. So they will evaporate and just will not be here. We believe at the Geneva Initiative that we need to be realistic. And realistically, we don't want the minorities to dictate our own fate and future. So I think if you do it gradually, in a way that serves the interests of both sides, there is this zone of possible agreement, and that eventually will lead to both sides living in security, normal relations, and after some years, also in peace. First, we'll have a peace agreement. We follow the agreement. Peace will not happen in one day, but the eventual result should be peace, and this journey should start as soon as possible.
You mentioned that this whole Geneva Agreement is based on a democratic foundation. I guess that's elections and law made by a parliament in Gaza. Can you tell us a little bit about how do you envision this democratic process to work?
So again, first of all, according to our thinking, the Palestinian state should be composed of both the West Bank and Gaza. Of course, if Gaza is controlled by Hamas, which is a terrorist organization that doesn't recognize Israel, doesn't want to talk to Israel, and doesn't want to make peace with Israel, then as long as they're in control, Gaza cannot be part of the Palestinian state. But we believe, and we see it in all public opinion polls, that not only most of the Palestinians, but most of the Gazans, they want to see a different reality and they agree to the two-state solution. Now, I want to draw a fine line here. Again, I'm Israeli. I'm not dictating others what kind of regime or decision-taking process they are going through. We made peace with Egypt, which is a country that didn't exactly adopt the Jeffersonian principles of the American Constitution, and I'm not sure even that they adopted the, Montesquieu rules on the separation of entities and so on, right? And
definitely not. It's still an Egypt state, right?
Right.
Yes.
And we have peace with Jordan, and we had normalization agreements with the United Arab Emirates, and we'll be happy to make a peace treaty, a normalization treaty with the Saudis, which again are not the number one state that comes to mind when you speak about liberal democracies. The Palestinians are the closer to democracies than many other Arab countries. They see us, they know how to do, they see the Palestinians who live in Israel as full citizens of Israel. And I believe that a decision there, by the way, as it was discussed in previous negotiations, a decision that will be approved by a referendum on both sides, referendum of Israelis and referendum of Palestinians in the West Bank, East Jerusalem and Gaza. I believe that this referendum will empower any president or government to go on with the agreement. And they will also get a lot of benefits and incentives to do it, be it economic incentives, international backing, and so on. So I basically believe that it's in the interest of both peoples to reach a kind of an agreement that will really enable a better future. And as we see it for the last, 100 years since the international community and the Brits that had the British mandate here reached the conclusion that you have to solve it some way, and both peoples have connection to the land. The best way is to divide the land, and which is basically the two-state solution. First, we need to overcome the issue of Gaza, no doubt. You mentioned Gaza. Hamas cannot remain in power in Gaza, but the way to remove them from Gaza is by bringing someone else who will take over. Otherwise, they will just get more support, more force, more power, because if there's no other alternative. So we believe that a strengthened, reformed Palestinian Authority, supported by regional players, backed by the international community, can again gradually take over Gaza. So there will be one entity that will control the West Bank and Gaza, and this entity will sign or will launch at least a peace process with Israel, leading to an agreement about the two-state solution.
You mentioned that there is a whole theater of players around Gaza, right? The European Union, United States of America, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, blah blah blah, Iran also. Could you just as a comment to how do you see this whole international community contributing in a nice and constructive way? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So some of the players are not playing a constructive role. So let's have a sentence on Iran. Iran with its proxies, be it Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and others in Iraq, and so on, showed that they are leading to escalation, not to calm down the situation. They attacked Israel from Iran. They are paying money to Hamas and more than that. So Iran should be dealt in by the international community as a negative player, and we should know that the problem needs to be solved in Tehran as well. I hope it can be done without any military steps or any aggression or any bloodshed, through diplomacy. I'm a former diplomat. I believe in diplomacy, but we need to take into consideration the negative role that Iran is playing. Regarding other regional countries like Egypt, Jordan, the Gulf states, there is also Qatar, who is trying to broker agreements. I believe that those countries are mainly interested in stability. They don't want to see escalation. They don't want to see war. And it's good to have them around the table. It's good that they play a role. And I think in grosso modo, they play a positive role in general terms. But it's not enough. And the US has been leading since the horrible October 7th, the effort to try to end this war. And I think they have the power and the capability of putting enough incentives, carrots and sticks. So we will go to a place where the hostages are being released, and there is a permanent ceasefire, and a path to a different regime in Gaza, so it won't be Hamas. I think the European Union and other countries around the world can also play, and some of them are playing. The EU right now, they're in the Rafah crossing. They are playing a positive role. They help international organizations that are helping with humanitarian aspect, which is very important. So I think there is a kind of dividing labor here, while the Americans and some regional countries take care of directly of the diplomacy, of the politics to reach agreement, of security if needed, and Europeans and other international agencies make sure that the humanitarian situation improves and that the conditions are right for an implementation of an agreement that will be reached maybe by others.
Okay. All right, Gadi. So, any other comments on the two-state solutions before I tell a bit about my things?
Maybe one last comment on the two-state solution, because people like to speak about it, and for years, I'm veteran in this issue, and I can tell you that I heard so many times, for so many years, so many people saying that, how come you are working to promote the two-state solution? Haven't you heard that two-state solution is dead? It's dead, kaput, finito la comedia. Khalas, as you say in Arabic. It was maybe a story of the 90s or 20 years ago, but there's no way, because of the settlements on the ground, because of the split among the Palestinians. They say, Gadi, wake up. It's dead. I'm asking them, if something is dead, how come you make so many efforts to kill it again and again and again? It's already dead. Why do you need to kill it? Why those who oppose the two-state solution say time and again let's say Israelis, okay, from the right wing, the extreme right wing, they say we need to build settlements in order to prevent the two-state solution. Or when they heard about President Trump's idea of expelling 1.8 or 1.9 million Palestinians, it's not sure how many stayed alive after the last war, their immediate response is, that's great, this will prevent the establishment of the Palestinian state. I'm asking, why are you so concerned? If it's already dead, why are you worried? The answer is, because people either support the two-state solution or oppose it. Both views are legitimate, of course. But both know that it's still the only realistic, feasible, sustainable solution to the conflict, even those who oppose it. So they know that there's no other alternative. You can criticize the two-state solution. Of course, it's legitimate. It's not a 100% perfect model. But when I ask those opponents, okay, bring me, I'm not religious about it, bring me a better solution that both sides can live within, a solution to the conflict, then there's no other solution. People say, no, well, we'll continue the conflict forever. It will be an eternal war. Well, I live here, my kids live here. I don't want an eternal war. So even if it's not perfect, and even if there is opposition to it, the two-state solution remains the only possible viable solution that both peoples can live with, because it serves the vital interests, the national interests of both nations, the Palestinian people and the Jewish people.
All right, that's a good bringing the ball to my court, right?
Sure.
Thanks. Thank you again for it's a really good description. I think, to be honest, I support you, right? I think right now, yeah, sure, but I think right now a two-state solution is actually the way we should go. But the truth is, it's the whole Trump idea about removing the Palestinians from Gaza to somewhere else is something I came up with. So my opinion right now is that we have to make the two-state solutions because that's the only viable right now. But but I really want to bring the arguments to the public so that people can actually understand what it was I was thinking. Because a lot of people, they have a lot of ideas about this and that. I'm a peaceful guy, I'm a democratic humanist, I'm not, right-wing, extreme, anything, definitely not, right? The reason why I thought perhaps taking all the civilians out of Gaza was before the war started. My point was, it's better to take all the civilians out of Gaza before we go into war with Hamas, because all the civilians are going to be victims of this war. It's better to take them, put them somewhere else, and then take the war with Hamas if we have to. Or I think if we remove all the citizens of Gaza out of the Gaza Strip, then the war, the peace will come all by itself, because Hamas will be under the ground and they wouldn't have any, incentive to continue the war. And then this idea I floated up, and at that time Saudi Arabia was actually in on it. They thought it was a good idea. But it was actually a solution to the whole issue of going into Gaza and making war. I think it's better to take the civilians out so they are not harmed. So this idea has been floating around for some time, and then Trump, I think he probably read about it on my blog, and then he presented it as a viable solution. But I think, to be honest, I think right now is not the time anymore. Why? Because one, it was a solution instead of going to war in Gaza, right? Now we have been in war with Gaza for a long time, so it's a different scenario. That's one thing. Secondly, the Arab states, also, the allies of the United States of America are really against it. They really don't want it. Egypt doesn't want it, Jordan doesn't want it, and especially Saudi Arabia, who we have a viable chance to make as an ally for Israel, they are against it, right? So I think that's really the problem about my solution, is that it came too late in the whole process. But I just want to underline, it's not about any kind of, neocolonialism or, right-wing exploration, taking the land conquests that like Smotrich is talking about. It was a solution to a problem at that time 1 year ago. And I think honestly that the whole the time has made this solution void for now. I think we should take it as a possibility, but I really think that a two-state solution is actually for now being the better solution. But just again to underline it, it was a humanistic solution to a problem, and I've been doing a lot of work for peace in the whole region of the Middle East, and this was actually an attempt at making peace. It became like a second solution that a lot of people said, well, that's a good idea, right? Well, okay, but me as the one who made it up, I think the time has run away. It could be a possible solution sometimes, maybe in the future, but right now we have to stick to what all the Arab states really want, which is a two-state solution. So this is really my opinion about it. I know that a lot of Israelis, they're really for the solution actually, right? Everybody said that's a good idea, but I think it has some internal flaws, and I think also that if it's seen as a conquest, I think it's wrong, right? It's an attempt of making something new, cutting Gordian knot is not conquest. So that's really, and you're very welcome to actually criticize it. If you have some criticism towards it, please, Gadi, you're welcome to this.
Thank you. First of all, I'm always in favor of saving lives. So whatever saves lives, we need to first of all consider and not rule out. And actually, right now, I'm very much in favor of taking out specific civilians from Gaza, and I'm talking about the Israeli hostages. So the Israelis should be taken from Gaza and go back to their homes. And I understand completely the distinction that you make of thinking about it before the war, just to save lives, because you know that the war will break out, and then they leave temporarily, and then when the war is over, they go back. That's one thing, which again is not the case anymore. And doing it after the war, after so many tens of thousands of them were killed and many injured and homes were destroyed, and saying that they will have to leave and they will not have the right to go back. This is what President Trump said. Then it's a different story. Now, it is true that there are Israelis that they have the dream that the Palestinians will not be here in Gaza, maybe will not be here also in the West Bank. It's a dream. And there are Palestinians who have the dream that Jews will not be here in the Holy Land. And they say you should go back to the countries where you came from. We were here the last centuries. You came from Europe, from Eastern Europe, from America, South America, whatever. Go back. It's a dream. Everybody is entitled to have his own and her own dreams. But the moment your dream becomes the nightmare of the other, then we have a problem here. And then, because then we wake up into the reality. And in reality, millions of Palestinians will not disappear. And millions of Israeli Jews will not disappear. We are here. We're stuck right now between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. We are 50-50. A bit less Jews now, but around 50-50. Now, what do you do with this? Is the reality. It's not a dream. Maybe our dreams are different. Their dreams are different. Right now, what you do, you need to weaken the extremists with the ideas presented now, not at the time that you wrote it, now. The impact is that you strengthen Hamas, because until it happens, according to the plan, yesterday President Trump spoke about 1.9 million Palestinians that will have to leave. Well, it will take time, right? Especially if they don't want to do it. If someone wants to immigrate or to leave to another country, he should get the right to do it. If he has another place to go, I'm all in favor that people will have the freedom of movement. But the idea is, if the idea here is to do it to people that don't want it, it's very problematic morally, legally, but also practically, it will take time. And meanwhile, what will happen meanwhile? Hamas is still there. There's no other power that replaces Hamas. Hamas becomes stronger because people want to fight against this idea, so they join Hamas. Hamas becomes stronger in the West Bank. The Arab countries like Jordan and Egypt become weaker, not stable. They are afraid of such a massive entrance of Gazas into their countries, which can really change the regime and the total environment. So we lose much more than we win, even if at the end of the day it's implemented, which I very much doubt. So we lose for sure for the short run, and apparently we lose also for the long run with very small chances to win something. That's why it's not the case that, like when you presented it and thought about the idea, all kind of ideas should be discussed at the right time. What I'm suggesting for a two-state solution is also problematic because it's removing Israeli settlers from their homes. Now, it's not the same because they're outside Israel, they're outside the country. It's against international law. They will come back to their own country, not to a different country. But yet, it's not easy. I'm not underestimating such an issue, but you need to plan it in advance, to do it in a context, in a context that brings security and brings chances for peace and not brings escalation.
Yeah, that's true. But I think also one of the arguments, one of the basic principles of this idea was to say that I used to work a lot as a teacher and with kids around 12 and 11 years old. I used to work with them, and kindergarten is a kindergarten, right? In the Middle East, is a kindergarten, right? And so my idea was also to say, well, when I have problems with the boys, what I do is I take the boys apart, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, you sit there and you sit there, right? And now you're not allowed to fight anymore. Right. That was actually kind of one of the ideas behind this, saying, okay, we take the civilians out, because if we take the civilians out, the whole conflict would be lessened. So I think it's very important that to see the whole idea as more as a separation of ability to fight each other than as a conquest, right? Yeah. I was saying, okay, let's just, you guys should stay there, you guys should stay there, and then things will simmer down, right? So I think that's also important principles to use in the whole understanding of this principle, or this idea, is that it's not about conquest, it's actually about taking the different people who are fighting and move them away. Mm-hmm. So I think, in fact, when you do have new ideas, you have to be honest about it. There's a lot of thinking about it's all kind of strange strategies and so on. It's not, right. I just wanted to separate the people so that they don't fight. Yeah. So that's it. But I think also, you probably also agree that if we want this process to actually work right now, with all the animosity and the Arab states who are potential allies and are allies, that they're really against it, it's not going to work right now. And that's really the situation. And I think what I'm also worried about is that, that Trump and Netanyahu are like, well, we just have to force this situation, and they start doing the war again, instead of actually going into the diplomatic discussion and start trying to at least try to see if there's a possibility of two-state solution. Because, as you say, it's a diplomatic thing to do, and just starting the diplomacy wouldn't be such a bad idea, I think. And I think all this, pointing fingers and setting deadlines, it's not good for the diplomatic process, right? It's just it doesn't work in that way.
Well, I mean, there are things that maybe are good for some politicians from their own political domestic reasons, or their own personal or personalities issues. But I'm talking about the real interest of the people, and we should know that eventually there's no military solution to this conflict. It's not that you don't have to use military force sometimes. Of course, I'm not a pacifist. I know sometimes you need to use force. But in order to reach a solution, there's no military solution. You have to bring also a political solution that both nations and the countries in the region can live with, can benefit from. And then when you set a goal, it doesn't mean that tomorrow you get there. But at least you know the path. You have a journey. You put something in the destination, in your app, in your phone when you drive. So sometimes you need to turn right, left, you have obstacles on the road, but you know where you want to get. And here in this war in Gaza, it is not clear what is the political goal. In my view, for me, the goal is to remove Hamas power from Gaza. Hamas will not disappear as a movement or as an idea, but they should not control Gaza. And then someone else should control Gaza. At the beginning, with some help from France, but eventually leading to have one entity, one arm, one power, Palestinian power that controls West Bank and Gaza in order to be able to negotiate a political solution, namely the two-state solution. If we see this as an horizon, then we can move forward. If we don't have an horizon, and if we just say, okay, let's fight tomorrow more, let's resume the war, let's kill more, let's get killed more, then it's a recipe for tragedies, for bloodshed, and for disaster.
Exactly. You have to have some kind of horizon. You have to have an idea about where you're actually going, right? Otherwise, it would just be, just endless killing. And that's actually, I think, what has been the problem with the war until now. There has been no true goal of the war. It's just like victory. I mean, define victory. What is the definition of victory with this, Mr. Smotrich and Ben-Gvir? And the left wing has been like maybe something, and that's the whole confusion of why we're doing this, how we're going to implement it, has actually been very destructive, right? One thing is, I think also, I don't know about you, but I think what is really important also in the whole conflict is that, we have to respect each other, right? And I think what maybe could be good about the two-state solution is that it has some kind of respect built into it, right? We come to you, we try to make some kind of dialogue, and maybe we can make something, right? Because I think one of the great problems about this war is the dehumanization of both sides, right? I mean, Palestinian Arabs are just evil and blah, blah, blah. I can see it, I see, I cry when I see the people coming back from Gaza and they are like totally wasted and we Israelis are just evil. But the whole dehumanization aspect, I think, is really, it's very, very
yeah, I agree with you, but
dangerous.
We need to make the distinction. I mean, of course, I have zero respect, no tolerance whatsoever to the brutal terrorists that committed the crimes on October 7th. Those people behaved in a non-human way, and they should not be treated in a respectful way, for sure.
Of course not. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about...
I agree. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page on this one.
Definitely.
Who are in charge should be punished, and there's no doubt about that. But the majority of the people, the majority of Palestinians, even in Gaza, I'm old enough to remember the days where the same Gazans threw candies at Israeli soldiers after the Oslo agreement because they saw hope, they saw an horizon. And I follow closely all the public opinion polls also among Palestinians. Wherever there is an horizon, a hope, a process that may lead them to independence, to freedom, to fulfillment of basic rights, they are more pragmatic. When they are desperate, when they don't see any hope, then they tend to support violent means in order to get their goals. It's not something written in the Bible or in the Quran or in the New Testament or wherever. It's flexible. It depends on reality. And yeah, I believe that. And this is what we do, by the way, at the Geneva Initiative. We arrange meetings all the time between Israelis and Palestinians, Israeli youth and Palestinian youth, teachers and teachers, journalists and journalists, politicians, to humanize the other, to listen to the other. We don't have to agree on everything, but to see that at the end of the day, most of the people are normal people who want better life for them, for their families. You have the lunatics, you have the extremists, but we should not surrender to them. We should not put our fate in their hands, and we need to defeat them. But one of the best ways to defeat those extremists is by bringing an alternative, a political solution. And it's nice to have tactics here and there, but you need to have a strategy. And the strategic goal of both peoples is to reach political solution that will bring real security for all of us.
Yeah, it's true that this, trying to humanize the whole conflict again. I think I really agree about the distinction between Hamas as a terrorist organization and the people of Gaza, right? I think it's right. If you put someone in, if you really push them up in the corner, they will fight, right? Of course. I mean, that's all they have left. While if you actually give them a possibility to find a peaceful solution for their families, for their the future, everything, they will pick that. They are pragmatic, as you say. So I think that's kind of a nuancing of the whole debate, right? Arabs from Gaza evil? No, they're not evil. There's a whole range of opinions and everything. And I think if you do that diplomatic forced tour to try to reach some of those people who are actually moderate and want to make it a democratic state, you will automatically push Hamas more because the people will say, okay, maybe there's a hope here. Yeah, so I really agree. I think it's time for diplomacy right now. It's not time for all-out war. I think, and also what I'm really worried about, Gadi, is that I think if we recommence the war now, just imagine the hostilities and the bad things that will come to Israel from around us, right? Oh my God, our whole status in the world has just plummeted after the war. If we continue this, I think it's an existential threat. If we get to a point where Israel will be so unpopular all around the world, we actually may end up in a situation where we will be beat, right? We have Trump maybe 4 years. Well, what's that? What after that? We have to be very, very careful about our image. If you know what I understand, it's really important that people see Israel as something beautiful and sustaining and positive and peacemaking, right? And right now we're really, really, really in the opposite direction. And I think it could be an existential threat. And I think Israelis in general and Jews in general should be realistic about it, right? We can't just, I know that we feel, we feel beat and all our feelings and everything, but there's also kind of a realistic understanding of how the world sees Israel right now, and they see us as the worst country in the world. And if we don't change that narrative, where we end, right? Aren't you also a bit worried about this?
Of course, I'm worried about it. I think the international relations of Israel are also part of our national security. This also means security. And security is not only guns and aircraft. And we need relations with the world. And our basic values, I still believe, are the values of most of democratic, liberal human beings over the world. But the reality right now here is terrible. And if the war will resume, I'm afraid that many will lose in this war on both sides. We will have a lot of losers. We will not have winners. Nobody will win this war. We'll have one loser. And part of the losing of Israel will be vis-a-vis the world with long-term influence. Youth, students in Europe and in the States, seeing that we'll see an Israeli army again attacking also civilians in Gaza, because terrorists and civilians are all mixed in Gaza, and we are paying a price with our own values. We are a society that is changing because of the conflict, because of this war. And we may end up with a different Israel that not only the world will not like, many Israelis will not like. And this is a danger. So we need to go back to the main road of Israel. Israel is a beautiful country, and we had a lot of achievements, and we have great people here and the great potential. But we will not be able to benefit from all this if we will be isolated by the international community and continue to bleed on a daily basis with our neighbors. That's why we need to take a different strategy out of self-confidence. We cannot see ourselves only as victims as eternal victims. We are much stronger than that. And as a strong player in the Middle East, we can help bring in really a much better region. But it's not only up to us, but the role that we should play, we have to play. And it's a constructive, diplomatic, political role, letting know all the others that there are things that we will not tolerate. And of course, sometimes you need to respond militarily. As long as you remain with the eyes on the ball, and the ball is a strategy that leads eventually to a political solution, because there's no military solution to this conflict.
True. Like, just imagine like we're kind of standing on a road, right? We can either go more war, which will eventually lead to bad relationships with everybody, not just not just Iran and the whole Persian axis, but with the Arab states, with the EU, and now we have US on our side. But I mean, you never know. And I mean, let's say in 4 years' time, everything it's still in the war. We will have the whole world against us, and even Israel, with all the military capabilities and everything, will not be able to sustain that danger, right? I mean, we will be we will be defeated. The other way is to maybe, and that's why I support your idea about the two-state solution, finding that diplomatic solution, being again a constructive player in the Middle East. We have so much potential to help with our, we have so much potential. I mean, Israel is so filled with brilliant people, right? In technology, in political philosophy, in everything, right? If we use these forces to help our neighbors, hopefully Saudi Arabia, if we get a peaceful agreement with that, but also maybe Lebanon, if we're lucky, Syria, Egypt, of course. If we use that whole a fund of knowledge and technology and skill sets, everything, we can be a constructive player for people around us. And our values is very, it's written that Israel is supposed to be the light upon the nations. To be a light upon the nations, you're supposed to help, right? You're supposed to be a good guy. You're supposed to be a friend, and support. And I think really that we have to choose between going into war or going into be what we really are, which is that beautiful, supportive, and positive power that we have the potential to be. Right? It's a pivotal moment, I think.
I totally agree with you, Asger. I know we're getting close to the end of our conversation, but I think your last words describe exactly where we are. This is really a crucial key point. This is the crossroad. We have to decide to which way we turn, and because the risks and the dangers are huge, but the opportunities are also very big. We have a willingness of the Saudis to normalize relations with Israel and other Gulf countries. We have an excellent relationship with the current American administration. We lower the tensions with some of Iran proxies after weakening them, like Hezbollah. We have a new reality in Syria. There are huge opportunities. Out of the crisis, you can really see usually a big opportunity. If we miss this opportunity, it will not only be a missed opportunity, it will be going to a very dangerous place. And I'm really concerned. I'm an Israeli patriot. I'm concerned with the future of my country. But I still think that there is opportunity there. We should not miss it, and we can go forward with also help of our friends. Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful words, right? It's like I think it's a good point to stop the conversation, isn't it? It's kind of a beautiful conclusion on the whole debate.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gadi. I think it's been very enlightening. I hope that you feel that you had the opportunity to get forward with your opinions, and I think it went really well.
No, I'm very thankful for giving me the opportunity, the space, the time to express my views, but it was also very interesting for me to listen to you and to your insights, your inputs. It's important for people like me, for organizations like us, the Geneva Initiative, to know that we are not alone, that there are people around the world that care, first of all, that care about what's going on here and really want to see a solution. And I think if we cooperate, if we act together, maybe the chances for success are even higher. But we here, we will not give up on peace. So please don't give up on us.
No, definitely not. I will never give up on Israel.
Right.
Definitely not.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's hopefully pray that it's going in the constructive direction. That Israel will end up being that beautiful, supportive, light upon the nation that will support everybody around us and be that hub in the Middle East that will move. We have so much to give, right? Let's just get to a point where we can be able to give, right? And hopefully get there. All right, that's all for now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.